Good morning, everybody. My name is José Ramon de Sousa. I'm the chair of the foundation, and I'm very glad you could join us this morning. Two very brief words. First of all, welcome. We hope that at the end of the day you feel glad and happy that your time was well spent today on this meeting. I'd like to thank Nova, of course, for inviting us to their faculty and this hall. Also, I'd like to thank the organizing committee who put this together, and our foreign guests that were able to join us this morning. And I think that's about it. And we have with us João Pereira, who's the clinical director of the foundation. He's going to say a few words next. And then Professor Miguel Xavier, who's in charge of the National Health Plan in Portugal. I think will also help us to understand a little bit the present state of our health system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Third International Mental Health Congress of Ramon de Sousa Foundation. I also would like to thank IFIL Nova, the Institute of Philosophy, who collaborated with us, all the organizing committee, and all our partners. I'll just say a quick word about after the second International Mental Health Congress, there was a seed planted that resulted in this book. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen after this Congress. So hopefully we can make some interesting work that will last, and not just today. And yes, I hope it's an enjoyable day. We have different panels and different communications. I hope you enjoy. So now I will ask Professor Miguel Xavier. He is a professor of psychiatry and the current president of the scientific board at Nova Medical School, senior consultant at Hospital São Francisco Xavier, and also director of the National Program for Mental Health. You have the full biography in your books.
Hope it's correct.
Hopefully it's correct and updated. Okay,
so
thank you
very much. Okay, thank you. Well, first place I'd like to greet the organization and to thank you for... Okay. Can you listen to me well in the last row? Yeah, okay. So, first of all, to greet the organization and to thank you very much for the invitation, and I'd like to welcome you to this meeting. As my colleague said, I'm a psychiatrist by formation, and I'm now currently the director of the National Mental Health Program. Besides welcoming you and greeting the organization, I would like to tell you about one or two things. One thing that I think it's important, I think in a way, from the point of view of how organized mental health services, mental health is in a deep change now. My experience is when I go to congresses of professionals, mostly psychiatric congresses, or when I go to meetings mostly with users or NGO organizations, the concepts that we found in each place is totally different. We are talking about the same thing, usually severe mental illness, but it seems like it has two separate worlds. So we think that we are in a situation, in a risky situation, a tricky situation, in which we have two worlds apart dealing with the same subject. And one thing that it's changing is the importance that we give to the issue of the access to the inner feelings of the persons. I do remember that when I was a resident, I started my residence in Lisbon in 1989, a long time ago, 30 years ago, more or less. And the influence of my service was group analytic, so psychodynamic driven. And I do remember that me and my colleagues we had some training on psychotherapy. Some of us had this own analysis, and the situation changed totally in 20 years. For instance, my residents, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, go to analytical process. So the issue of the access to the inner feelings, which in my opinion is our first task as professionals, has its ups and lows. And during the 90s and during the first 10 years of this century, I think that we start to believe, we psychiatrists and professionals, that we could solve very complex problems with very simple equations. And it's not possible. More and more we notice that for such a complex problem like has severe mental illness, we need very complex and sophisticated ways of dealing with the problem. And my task now, when I see how to organize services, is how to include all the contributions that are coming from outside the public system that are needed in order to change the public system. In my opinion, it's very difficult to change the public systems from inside. Unless we have outputs from outside, it's very difficult to change because people are used to work in a very more and more medically oriented approach, so it's very difficult to change it. And I think that contributions like this one are very important. My impression is that, for instance, in Portugal, we still lack a lot a strong movement of users, of patients, of families. We still need it. And more, I think that things like the one that you are doing now are very important to that. I was in Geneva some months ago in a meeting of the WHO, and Michel Funk, who was one of the directors of the mental health program in Geneva, WHO headquarters, asked me if there was any experience of open dialogue in Portugal. And I said I didn't know. So, because I didn't know at all. This shows how these new contributions are not still included in our thoughts and the way we think and the way and how we approach our perspective, how to change the mental health system, for instance, in our country. So for me, it's very good to know that open dialogue is starting in Portugal. It's a very good news for me because we are in a strong need of these outside and approaches in order to change the system. We have a lot of problems within the system in Portugal. We have some good things also. We were able in 10 years to close most of our psychiatric hospitals. But anyway, we still lack a lot of things in the community. And most of the services do not have resources to do all the job in the community. So I greet you a lot by your work and for bringing these new things like the open dialogue to our system, because I hope that in the near future we may start to include these things in the way we organize services in Portugal. So thank you a lot for this. It's a pleasure for me, and I hope the Congress is a success, and I hope that you might invite me for the 4th International Mental Health Meeting next year, and I hope to bring better news, okay?
Yes.
All right? Perhaps that we could start, and thinking to start, a pilot project of open dialogue in the catchment area, because, in my opinion, it's impossible, not impossible, but best way to do it is to link you and the persons that are starting the open dialogue with public services. And I know by experience that it's impossible to think that a country can start an experience as such in 2019 or 2020. We have to start in a place. So I think that perhaps we could think or start thinking about how to start an open dialogue approach in a catchment area to get funds to start it, because there is a need for training and so on. And perhaps in the 4th International Meeting, we could talk a little bit about it.
That's a great idea.
Yes, I hope so. So, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great meeting.
Thank you for coming.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the opening ceremony, and the first panel will follow. Just give us 2 minutes break. Thank you.
Yes.